5 years. 5 years of silence, stretched out like those endless fields, empty and unforgiving. 5 years of promises, whispered like secrets in the dark, now just faded echoes, drifting like dust in the wind. Marcus. He wasn't just her husband. He was the future they'd sketched out together, the solid oak of their shared dreams. He promised forever. A forever that lasted as long as a summer breeze. Then just like that he was gone. Vanished. No goodbye, no explanation, just a note left on the kitchen table, a note that read, "I need to find myself." Find himself, in a world that didn't include her, or Lily. Rural Ohio, a place where everyone knows everyone's business. A place where whispers travel faster than the wind. Clara was left alone. A single mother in a town where single mothers were a rarity. The pain of abandonment wasn't a sharp, sudden stab. It was a constant gnawing ache, like a tooth that wouldn't stop throbbing. Every morning, she woke up with it, and every night, it kept her company in the quiet darkness. The financial strain was a relentless pressure, a vice tightening around her chest. Every dollar counted, every penny squeezed. She worked double shifts, took on odd jobs, anything to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. And then there were the whispers. The town, with its well-meaning but often cruel curiosity, became a chorus of judgment. "Poor Clara," they'd say, shaking their heads. "Such a shame. Always knew he'd leave." Or the more subtle but equally painful, "She should have seen it coming." Every trip to the grocery store, every church service, every town meeting was a reminder of her failure, a scarlet letter etched in the eyes of her neighbors. It's a lonely kind of pain, isn't it? The kind that makes you feel like you're wearing a spotlight in a darkened room, every flaw magnified. Have you ever felt that? The weight of a broken promise, the sting of a vanished dream? The feeling that the ground has shifted beneath your feet, leaving you stranded in a landscape of uncertainty? It's a feeling that can hollow you out, leave you feeling like an empty shell. But Clara, she was made of stronger stuff. She wouldn't let the whispers define her. She wouldn't let the pain break her. She would build. Build a life, build a future, build a home. And she would do it for Lily. And for herself. Tell me, where are you watching from? Where are you when you feel the weight of such emotional burdens? Let's connect, let's share, let's understand. Clara, though, she wasn't built to break. She was forged in the fires of resilience, a resilience that ran deep in her family's bloodline. You know, that kind of strength, the kind that comes from generations of hard work, of facing down hardship and refusing to be bowed. It wasn't a loud, defiant strength. It was a quiet, steady burn, like the embers of a fire that refused to go out, even in the harshest wind. She picked up the pieces, not just for Lily, who needed a mother's strength to navigate a world suddenly fractured, but for herself. She needed to prove more than anything that she could rebuild, that she wasn't defined by Marcus's absence, by the town's whispers. She remembered her grandfather, a man of few words but skilled hands, who taught her the art of carpentry. It was more than just a trade. It was a language, a way to speak to the world with the strength of her own hands. Each nail hammered, each board laid, was a defiant act, a tangible "I am here, and I am building my future." It wasn't just building a house, it was building her life back. It was a physical manifestation of her emotional and mental rebuilding. She learned to read blueprints, to calculate angles, to understand the strength of wood. It was a challenge, a constant learning curve, but she embraced it, throwing herself into the work with a fierce determination. She used every penny, every spare moment, to create this house. Every dollar saved from her waitressing job, every tip carefully tucked away, every hour stolen from sleep, went into this project. This house wasn't just a structure. It was a testament to her strength, a tangible symbol of her resilience. It was the physical embodiment of her hard work and determination. The house began to rise, slowly but surely, from the barren earth. The frame went up first, then the walls, then the roof. It was a beacon of hope in a landscape of despair, a symbol of defiance against the odds. The other people in the town began to look at her differently. Not with pity, but with a growing respect. They saw her strength, her determination, and they were inspired. The house wasn't just for her and Lily, it was a symbol for the town as well. A symbol that hard work and determination can build something from nothing. This house, it wasn't just a structure of wood and nails. It was a tangible manifestation of Clara's resilience, a monument to her refusal to be broken. Each plank, each beam, was a testament to her strength, a physical embodiment of her hard-won independence. It was a sanctuary, a refuge from the harsh realities of their lives. It was a place where the echoes of the past, the hollow silence left by Marcus, were slowly being replaced by the vibrant sounds of life. The scent of baking bread, not just any bread, but the kind that fills a house with warmth and comfort, the kind that says, "You are safe here." Imagine Lily's laughter, a sound that had been muted for so long, now ringing out with a newfound joy. This house wasn't just a physical space. It was a container for their hopes, their dreams, their future. It was a place where the pain of the past, the gnawing ache of abandonment, was slowly, painstakingly, being replaced with the promise of tomorrow. Every nail hammered, every wall erected, was a step towards healing, a step towards building a life free from the shadows of the past. It was a place where Lily could be a child again, where she could dream without the weight of her father's absence pressing down on her. It was a place where Clara could finally breathe, where she could feel the weight of the world lifting from her shoulders. This house was more than just shelter. It was a symbol of their survival, their triumph over adversity. It was their home, their sanctuary, their promise. But the past has a way of returning, doesn't it? Like a ghost, a shadow, a whisper in the wind. It lingers, it waits, it watches. It seeps into the cracks, into the very foundation of your peace. It reminds you that the wounds of the past are never truly healed, they simply scar over. And sometimes, those scars can be ripped open, leaving you vulnerable, exposed, and raw. The past, in the form of Marcus, was about to return, and with it, the potential to shatter everything Clara had worked so hard to build. Then, like a ghost from a half-forgotten dream, he was back. Marcus returned. The prodigal husband, the lost father, the man who had abandoned them all. He stepped out of that beat-up truck, his smile as bright and disarming as ever, like he just popped out to the corner store for milk. He was full of stories, tales of finding himself in far-off places, of realizing his mistakes, of wanting to make things right. He spoke with a newfound sincerity, a practiced earnestness that almost felt genuine. He talked about the journey of self-discovery, about understanding what truly matters. Words that sounded good, but felt hollow. The town, always eager for a juicy story, buzzed with speculation. It was like a hive suddenly stirred. "He's back," they'd say, their voices filled with a mix of curiosity and judgment. "Wonder what he wants. He looks good, doesn't he?" The gossip mill churned, fueled by years of pent-up questions and a deep-seated need to see how this drama would unfold. Everyone had an opinion, everyone had a theory. But no one truly knew what was going on in Clara's heart, or in Marcus's mind. Lily, caught in the crossfire, was a study in conflicting emotions. She longed for a father, for the man she barely remembered, the man from the faded photographs. But she was also wary, deeply wary. She had seen her mother's pain, felt the weight of Marcus's absence. She watched him with an almost unnerving intensity, her eyes searching for the truth behind his charming facade. She was a child, but she was also a survivor, and she knew that some smiles hid sharp teeth. Clara, despite her better judgment, allowed a sliver of cautious hope to creep in. Maybe, just maybe, he had changed. Maybe, he had finally grown up, finally understood the damage he had caused. Maybe, he was truly remorseful. It's a dangerous thing, hope. It's a fragile thing, easily shattered. It's a flicker in the darkness, a whisper in the wind. And Clara, after years of darkness, desperately wanted to believe that the light was finally returning, that the fractured family could be put back together, even if it was a little bit crooked, that the pain could finally begin to heal. But hope, as we know, can be a cruel mistress, leading us down paths we shouldn't tread, promising us things we can't have. He returned like a prodigal son, a ghost from a life Clara had almost learned to forget. He talked of wanting to make amends, his voice smooth, almost melodic. He spoke of realizing his mistakes, of the years he'd lost, of the pain he'd caused. He wanted to be a father, a real father to Lily, to be a husband, a real husband to Clara. Words, like carefully crafted brushstrokes, painting a picture of a man reborn, a man changed. He used the language of regret, a language he seemed to have mastered. "I was lost," he'd say, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know what I had until I lost it." He spoke of change, of growth, of finally understanding what truly mattered. He painted a picture of a future, A future built on the foundation Clara had so painstakingly laid, a foundation of sweat, tears, and unwavering determination. He spoke of them being a family again, a complete family, the way it was supposed to be. He mentioned how proud he was of her accomplishments, and made it seem like he wanted to support her now, as she completed their dream home. The community, always eager for a good story, always yearning for redemption, was swayed by his charisma. He was the Marcus they remembered, the charming, easygoing man who could make anyone laugh. They saw the changed man, the man who had seen the light. They forgot, or perhaps chose to ignore, the years of silence, the empty promises, the pain he'd caused. They welcomed him back with open arms, their voices echoing with forgiveness and hope. Clara, despite her reservations, despite the years of building walls around her heart, felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years. A warmth, a hope, a longing for the family she once had. Could this be real? Could he have changed? Could he have finally grown up? The questions echoed in her mind, a dangerous symphony of what-ifs. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that the man she once loved, the man she once trusted, had returned. She wanted to believe that the future he painted, the future built on her hard work, could become a reality. But a small, persistent voice whispered in her ear, a voice of caution, a voice of experience. A voice that reminded her that some wounds never fully heal, that some promises are destined to be broken. The tension was palpable, a thick, suffocating blanket that settled over every conversation, every shared meal. The air, usually filled with the sounds of construction and Lily's laughter, was now thick with unspoken words, with the weight of the past. Each smile from Marcus felt like a carefully crafted performance, each gesture a calculated move. Clara, though she tried to remain optimistic, couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The way he looked at the house, not with admiration, but with a possessive glint. The way he talked about the future, not as a shared dream, but as something he was entitled to. Lily, always perceptive, always attuned to the unspoken currents, saw the darkness lurking beneath his charming facade. She saw the way his eyes lingered on Clara's tools, on the blueprints, on the very structure of the house, as if measuring it, claiming it. She tried to warn Clara, her words simple but profound. He's not the same, Mama. He's different. But the pull of hope, the longing for a family, for a sense of normalcy, was a powerful force. It was a siren song, whispering promises of a future that Clara desperately wanted to believe in. A future where Lily had a father, where the house was filled with warmth and laughter, not just echoes of the past. Then the storm broke. Not just the physical storm, with its thunder and lightning, but an emotional one. The carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing Marcus's true motives, like rot beneath a polished surface. He wasn't here to rebuild. He was here to destroy. He wasn't here to be a father, or a husband. He was here to reclaim what he believed was his. He wanted what Clara had built, not just the physical house, but her independence, her strength, her very sense of self. He saw it as his due, a prize he had abandoned and now decided to retrieve. "You built this with my money," he'd say, his voice laced with a venomous entitlement. "This is my house. You wouldn't have anything without me." It was a twisted logic, a warped sense of ownership that had festered in his absence. He saw her hard work, her resilience, her very existence, as an affront, a challenge to his fragile ego. It wasn't about the house. It was about control. It was about erasing Clara's agency, her power, her very identity. He wanted to reduce her to nothing, to prove that she was nothing without him. He wanted to dismantle the symbol of her strength, to shatter the very foundation of her independence. He wanted to steal her future, just as he had stolen her past. And in that moment, Clara realized that the man she had loved, the man she had hoped had changed, was nothing more than a ghost, a shadow of the man she once knew. A dangerous ghost, intent on destruction. The turning point. Not a subtle shift, not a gradual decline, but a brutal, visceral act of destruction. A demolition. A shattering. Marcus, his face contorted with a rage that was both terrifying and alien, climbed into the cab of a rented bulldozer. A machine of raw power, a symbol of brute force, aimed directly at the heart of Clara's sanctuary. At her home. The house, Clara's testament, her hard-won victory against the odds, was being ripped apart, piece by piece. Each crashing beam, each shattered window, was a blow to her soul. The symbol of her hard-earned freedom, of her resilience, was being systematically destroyed. The very walls that held her dreams, her hopes for a future, were crumbling before her eyes. The pain. Not the dull ache of betrayal, but a raw visceral pain that ripped through her like a physical wound. The kind of pain that steals your breath, that makes you question everything you've ever believed. It was unbearable. A wound that reached into the deepest parts of her, and tore at the very fabric of her being. The community, those who had whispered, those who had judged, those who had looked away, watched in stunned silence. They were witnesses to a destruction that transcended the physical. They were witnessing the destruction of a human spirit. And then there was Lily. A tiny figure against the backdrop of devastation, but her presence was immense. Her eyes, filled with a cold, hard anger, burned with a fierce protectiveness. She stood defiant, a silent sentinel, a small warrior against the forces of destruction. She was a witness, a judge, a silent promise of retribution. In that moment, she was the embodiment of everything Marcus was trying to destroy, and he could not reach her. In that moment, it was clear that the destruction of the house was not the destruction of Clara, but the destruction of Marcus. The transformation began, not in a moment of grand revelation, but in the raw, brutal aftermath. It began in the ashes, the literal and metaphorical ruins of Clara's shattered dream. Stripped bare, not just of her house, but of her illusions, her lingering hopes, her trust. Marcus, in his rage, had laid waste to more than just bricks and timber. He had laid waste to her sense of security, her belief in the goodness of people. He had forced her to confront the depths of her strength, a strength she didn't know she possessed. It's a primal moment, isn't it? When you're pushed to the edge, when everything you thought you knew is ripped away, and you're left standing, raw and exposed. And in that moment, amidst the rubble, Clara understood. The house wasn't just wood and nails. It was a reflection of her resilience, her determination, her unwavering spirit. It was her pain made tangible, her hope made concrete. And by destroying it, Marcus had unwittingly revealed her true strength. He had thought he was taking something away, but he had only ignited something within her. She realized she was not defined by the house, nor by Marcus. She was defined by her ability to rebuild, to rise from the ashes, to forge a new future, stronger and more resilient than before. The community, finally seeing Marcus's true nature, the ugliness hidden beneath his charm, experienced a collective awakening. They had been swayed by his words, blinded by their own desire for a happy ending. But the destruction, the raw, visceral act of violence, shattered their illusions. It was a moment of collective atonement, a realization of their complicity. They rallied around Clara, not with pity, but with a fierce determination to help her rebuild. They brought tools, food, and most importantly, their hands and their hearts. They recognized that Clara's fight was their fight, a fight against injustice, against manipulation, against the destruction of dreams. Marcus, facing the consequences of his actions, was left isolated, a pariah. The charm he had wielded so effectively was now a weapon turned against him. The town, once eager to embrace him, now shunned him, their eyes filled with disgust and disappointment. He had underestimated the strength of Clara, and the solidarity of the community. Lily, her voice strong and clear, became a beacon of truth. She spoke with a wisdom beyond her years, her words cutting through the lies and illusions Marcus had so carefully constructed. She held him accountable, not with anger, but with a quiet, unwavering truth. She became the voice of reason, the embodiment of the resilience Clara had instilled in her. The rebuilding wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was about reclaiming their lives, their dignity, their future. It was about proving that even from the deepest despair, hope could bloom. It was about showing that community, empathy, and resilience could triumph over destruction and betrayal. This was their transformation, a transformation forged in the ashes, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Closure. It's a word we throw around, like it's a neatly wrapped package, a perfect ending to a messy story. But real life, it doesn't work that way, does it? It's not a fairy tale, where the villain gets his just desserts and the heroine rides off into the sunset. No, closure is something you build, brick by painful brick. It's not about forgetting. It's about finding a way to carry the weight of the past without letting it crush you. Clara and Lily, they didn't find closure in some grand dramatic moment. They found it in the small everyday acts of living. They found a new sense of home, Not in the grand imposing structure Marcus had destroyed, but in the simple sturdy walls they built together. A home built on trust, the kind that comes from weathering a storm and finding you're still standing. A home built on community, the outstretched hands of neighbors who had finally seen the truth, who had finally understood. They had found a home built on the unshakable foundation of their bond, a bond forged in the fires of adversity, a bond that nothing could break. Marcus's fate, a question mark. Not a neat, tidy ending, but a lingering shadow. He didn't vanish into thin air, but he might as well have. He became a ghost, a reminder that some wounds leave scars that never fully fade. That some betrayals, no matter how much time passes, leave a mark. A reminder that the past, like a stubborn weed, can sometimes sprout up in unexpected places. But Clara, she had learned to cultivate her own garden. She had learned to focus on the flowers, not the weeds. And that's the thing about rebuilding, isn't it? It's not about erasing the past. It's about finding the strength to carry it with you, to learn from it, to grow from it. Clara and Lily, they had found their strength, their home, within themselves. They had learned that home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. It's the feeling of belonging, of being safe, of being loved. It's the feeling of knowing that no matter what storms may come, you have the strength to weather them. They found that their resilience was their home. That their own strength was the foundation they had always needed. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most important lesson of all. That home isn't always something you build. It's something you discover within yourself. It's the strength to keep going, even when the world tries to tear you down. It's the courage to build a new future, even when the past casts a long shadow. And it's the love that binds you, that makes you whole. What are your thoughts about home? What does it mean to you? How have you found strength within yourself? Share your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. And remember, even in the ruins, you can find the foundation for a new beginning.